Management Research. Hello and welcome to the Management Research podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Eugene. Hello and welcome to the next episode in my podcast, and we continue with our mini-series dedicated to the topic of strategic management. In particular, we work on the 5 forces framework, and in particular, we work on the bargaining power of bias. And in this event, we are going to talk about the next driver that is called the buyer's information. I don't know how many times you thought about that the information you have has a huge impact on your sensitivity, on your willingness to pay a certain price. I give usually to my students 2 examples. The first example is I show them the 2 websites and I ask them how they think, how much did this organization, usually this very known organization, pay for this website, or how do they think what is the value of this website. And I usually come up with a huge range of prices, usually starting by about 20,000 euros and up to 500,000 euros. Of course, you have different outliers. Somebody says 700,000, somebody says 500 euros. And it depends on what kind of information you have about making a website. So usually those students who assume that the price of the website is lower, these are those who already made a website or who know how to make them and who know that there are free engines. And then I'm just opening the code of this website. If you can usually do it using the button, I think it was F11 or F12 on the keyboard. And then you can see in the Chrome browser what kind of code they use behind it. And if you scroll till the bottom, you will usually see what kind of engine they use. The 2 sites or 3 websites that I show them, they are made on WordPress, and WordPress is a free engine. Of course, the website is not fully free. You have to pay for the server, you have to pay for hosting, you have to pay for your name, and of course you have to pay for the designer who will make, based on this engine, the website. But interestingly, many big known organizations, they have their websites running on this free engine. Of course they invested money, but the amount of money is much lower than if it would be if they had ordered a firm to develop the website from scratch. I know it because we did it. We developed websites from scratch. We developed websites based on the engine, so we know what is the difference. But it is me that I know this difference because I used to work with it and I used to have my own website. Those people who don't know, for them it is a kind of magic. And if you ask them how much would they pay for such a website, it will correlate with what they answered in my class. And those who said a higher price, let's say 50,000 or 20,000 euros, they probably assume if they would be, let's say, working in a big firm, they would take into account that they have to pay so much. Although it could happen that they will be offered something developed on the free engine, and the only price that is paid is usually just for the designer to make a unique design in the corporate style of this organization. Another example that I give to my students is the haircut. And I remember when I first time came to Frankfurt Main, I went to the haircut salon that we had close to us. It was, I think, the Arabian one, and they were very nice. And each time I had to make the haircut, it usually took about half an hour. Very polite, very professional, with all the, these unnecessary services, like how they use the cologne, how they try to amuse you. So very interesting, very funny. If you don't know this experience, I would recommend you to try it out. And let's say the price of my haircut was, at that moment, I think 14 euros or 15 euros, which even then by that time was not so much in Frankfurt, and now I think the prices is higher, but still very inexpensive. Then once I came to them, not on Monday, not on Tuesday, what I usually did when I have my lecture in the evening, I can take like 2 hours off and I go to haircut salon. But in this event, I went on Saturday and there was a queue and I had to wait in the queue, and I saw how many people were there. And when it was my turn, you can try to guess, I give you a short break of a few seconds, how much it took to make actually the same haircut they did before in time. I hope you made your guess. So the correct answer was 4 minutes 30 seconds, and they came up with the same haircut, a very simple haircut, and they introduced the same haircut. And actually understood that within this 30 minutes on Monday or Tuesday, they just make some luxury, services and movements that actually I don't really need. But anyway, it's nice to have it. On Saturday, I didn't have it. I received the same result. Actually, I go there because of the haircut. And they called me the same price, this 14 euros. But I had a real problem paying this 14 euros. No, of course I paid, but the feeling was I'm paying 14 euros for 4 minutes. It's a kind of too much. At that moment, I was not a professor, but still, if you just compare what is the price and how much we are paying, I thought it's a kind of robbery. But it is not. And the difference is that actually, I just saw how easy it is to do the final result, and I just understood that I'm not willing to pay money for this. In contrast to a web developer, to a web designer, or to a website designer, you don't know what is actually behind it. He or she will come to you in 3 weeks and show you the website, but you will never know, if you are not a specialist, how much time it took to develop this website. It can be made on a free engine. It can be not a free engine, but if organization already developed an engine for the website, they can use it over and over again. It means maybe they have invested in your website only, 3 or 4 hours. But you will not know it, and you will assume that this was the 3 weeks that is spent on your website. In the event of a haircut salon, if you go there to a hairdresser, you see all the movements, you see all the things which were done, and you see how much time it takes. And that is why your willingness to pay the price will be lower. It has an immediate impact on the bargaining power of the supplier and the bargaining power of the buyer. It is very hard to charge money for something that took only 5 minutes and they saw all your movements. But it's very easy to charge a lot of money if people don't know what happened or how you came up with this result. If you have some competence that is not immediately seen. If you are a consultant, if you are a lawyer, if you are, if you have your own startup that has to do with something, the competence that is not immediately observed, then you can charge more. Your bargaining power is higher than of those whose work is easily seen and easily done. It often happens it may have a backfire if you are in interior design or management consulting. Because people who hire you, they assume they're good in interior design, at least they would like usually to confirm what they would like to have, and usually they don't see what happens there, they just see the result and think maybe it was easy. The same with management consultant, as most managers who are at the managerial position had already studied management, they may assume that what you do is not as complex and not as hard to perform as you would like to charge for it. I know many consultants, and I know that the first step in this event is establishing the contact, establishing the good level of negotiations where you show the competence and show there is something more, something that was not in the book, something that you developed in your unique way that the other people cannot do. And in this event, you will be able to charge more. So, the better informed buyers are about suppliers and the prices and costs, the better they are able to bargain. If they know everything that you spend, how much time you spend, they can always bring you down and say that it is not worth the money they are going to charge you. And vice versa, if you have to work with a doctor, with a physician, or with a lawyer, they usually don't show how they came up with the price. They speak with you in hours, but as it's very hard, if you try to read through Austrian legal language, you will understand that probably they can charge any price. I will not be even able to understand how they write, especially in Austria, this legal language. So they can charge much more, and my price sensitivity is lower, so I would be willing to pay this money. Just because I don't know what is behind how much time it takes. But who knows, maybe they just used 1 hour, but they can charge me for 10 hours. And this is also the reason why the traders on the bazaars of Tangier or Istanbul don't tell you all the information about the product, how they came up with it, how they delivered it, and where it comes from. They may tell you something what you cannot prove in order to make you willing to pay more. I hope it was interesting, I hope it was helpful, and think of the following. Next time you talk to your employer, maybe you shouldn't show all the steps that you did. Maybe you should have something that is unobservable. Maybe you should invest in development of a competence that will help you charge more, something the others cannot, or some things the other don't understand or don't know how to do it. wish you all the best. See you in the next episode, and bye bye.